All right, everyone. So welcome and thank you all again for joining us this evening. My name is Brian, and I am the moderator and the host for this evening's event, The Future of Product Management. I am the program manager for Line Run, and Line Run is an experiential career, leadership, and industry education platform for tomorrow's leaders. We empower our community of leaders to connect, innovate, and grow through media, events, and programs such as this one this evening. We are very excited to have three amazingly talented and accomplished product managers joining us for this event. Unfortunately, our fourth panelist, Jesse Owens from MasterCard, could not make it due to a work conflict, but we have Joyce, Meghan, and Nicolas all here. In a colon and we'll get to it, but if there are no questions, we're going to go start our introductions, and we're going to start with Joyce.
All right. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Joyce Bao. I'm currently a senior product manager at FitBit. At FitBit, I'm leading our sleep and mental well-being initiatives. So prior to Fitbit, I actually started out, I was a bioengineering major by training. And I knew early on that engineering wasn't, or being engineering wasn't what I wanted to do. So after grad school, I was part of a rotation program that allowed me to explore different career path. And at the end of it, landed in product management in traditional medical device industry. And I just loved the career because it really allowed me to solve user problems while driving forward a product. And I transitioned to more consumer tech about almost 3 years ago because I really wanted to work on digital health. So yeah. You guys can ask me more about myself later, but this is a bit of background. Also, I'm a co-founder at She Aspired, and our mission is to help really women break into product. So I can chat more about it later as well.
Hey everyone, my name is Meghan Nesta. I'm Senior Product Manager at AWeber. We're an email service provider. I have been at AWeber for a little over 5 years. I've been in product management for nearly 10 years in one role or another. My experience spans native mobile app development and web development as well. Currently, I work on our customer control panel, which is the main customer experience for AWeber customers, which encompasses the web mostly. I have a passion for connections. So that's connecting our customers to build bigger businesses using our communication tools. Connecting other people. I am a co-organizer for Product Tank Philadelphia. We've grown from around 100 members to a little over 1,600 members in a few years. So we have a pretty active product community, especially in these virtual times. You're welcome to join if you're interested. It's all about product management. And I'm really looking forward to speaking to you about why I enjoy product so much and how you might be able to get into it.
Hi everyone, my name is Chikhani, and I'm very honored to be on this panel with all of you today. And so I'm currently the CPO at Feelmore Labs, which is a Brooklyn-based startup that's still in stealth, so there's only so much I can tell you about it. But at a very high level, we're working on some kind of wearable device to help with your stress and sleep, and we'll come out of stealth pretty soon. And prior to that, I spent 6 years at Weight Watchers, now known as WW, where I started as a product manager and then rose through the ranks as a VP of product in the end. And I was very fortunate to be a part of the digital transformation there. And prior to that, I was in finance with a completely different background at Morgan Stanley. And prior to that, I graduated with a degree in financial engineering from Columbia. Currently, I also teach at Columbia, which is my alma mater. I teach product management and business analytics, which I'm very happy to do as well. And I guess I'll answer the first question. Brian, what was the first question we wanted to answer?
Definitely. So one of our attendees had this really great question on how you define product management. So based on your current role, how do you define product management? How do each of you define product management? And how has that definition evolved over time?
Sure. So the first thing I should probably say is that people, when you say product management, they typically confuse it with project management. And I just want to clarify that this is not the case. But at a high level, to me, product starts with the user and then a problem you need to solve for. And from there, you formulate a KPI, a key performance indicator that will measure success of the solution. Then enters product design to help refine the problem definition and find a solution for it. And then from there enters maybe the project management part of this to execute with the solution, in which the product designer, the product manager, and the lead engineer partner on how to execute on this solution. And at every step of the way, that trio of product manager, product designer, lead engineer are a great combo to solve for each milestone. And from there, you test, you launch, you learn from the users, you iterate, and rinse and repeat. So really, product management to me is this whole discipline that starts with the user and ends with the user. But I think Meghan, you want to go next and add some, and maybe you disagree with me there, but I'd love for you to add more to that.
Yeah, so that is a great definition. What I would add to that is being a communication agent. So really bridging the gap between your users and your team and getting them inspired to know what problems your users are solving so you can have a collaborative environment to solve those problems. So that was part of what Nicolas mentioned, but I think it's really important to have a team approach to product management, because if you're just solving problems on your own and you're just putting requirements out there and telling everyone how to do it, you miss the full depth of who is on your team and what knowledge that they bring. So I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, I can also chime in. So I think a simple definition of product management in my mind is defining and driving the success of the entire product lifecycle, which starts from discovery to design to development, launch, but most importantly, I think even more importantly, is post-launch and iterating and really ensuring the full success of the product. Also in my career, kind of growing as a product manager, part of the role of a product manager, product management, is also understanding problems of the internal stakeholders. So I think Meghan and Nicolas described really well of understanding the customer needs. And part of product management is also understanding your internal customer needs or your internal stakeholders.
That's really wonderful definitions. And, as with every single thing in life right now, COVID-19 and the pandemic has changed the way that all of us live and work and conduct our business. So, Meghan, we'll start with you on this one, but how has COVID affected your current work and what you do as a team at AWeber? And how has the pandemic kind of shifted, if at all, that outlook on product management?
Yeah, that's a great question. So practically speaking, for AWeber, we have transitioned to now a fully remote company. Our corporate culture, being in an office, had been really important to us, but during these uncertain times and working remotely for an indefinite amount of time, we're now remote. So we've been working on a lot of team dynamics and figuring out just how our regular, we work in an agile methodology. And if you're not familiar with that, that's just basically a pattern of how you set up time increments to develop. So our normal meetings, which are in person, are now virtual. And the makeup of my small team, so we have about 10 people on my product team, is very introverted. So I find myself working on ways to have communication flow more easily and just work virtually, finding the right whiteboarding tool. We have to learn along the way. So there's a lot of practical implications for us in the day-to-day. the good news there is that I have a very bright team, and they're easy to adapt and comfortable with technology, but it's just like kind of learning that rhythm together. As for the product management side of things, so we've had an interesting, it's been an interesting path for us. So a lot of people have used email marketing to communicate with their customers about how their businesses are running because of COVID. So we've seen an increase in usage and a lot of our features in a new way, and it's becoming a new normal. So that has had us pivot in small and big ways to serve our customers better and to really onboard people more quickly. It's interesting how different usage in the platform, looking at how people are using it, has sparked different iterations to our product development.
Cool. Yeah, and so at FitBit, it's been sort of an interesting transition as we experience COVID, given that health and wellness is a top of mind for a lot of our consumers. So given that COVID literally happened within the middle of our Q1 or Q2 actually, Q1, Q2, we reshifted some of our product roadmap and priorities really to deliver what the customers need and in the moment. So we rolled out a COVID section within our app that provided a lot of really useful resources for our FitBit population, and also launched a COVID study that will be collecting some user data and understanding how that's actually impacting their health and wellness. So that's kind of on the product side. And then in terms of just kind of the inner workings, the day-to-day, yeah, so we are also all fully remote, and I think definitely the role of a product manager is to really work with a cross-functional team. So kind of the direct impact is that that resulted in a lot of meetings where just kind of I would spend an entire day sitting in front of the computer. So I would say part of it is actually kind of a personal adjustment to or transformation to how to adapt to this kind of remote work from home situation, and sometimes just like taking a mindful moment, like doing yoga. I've been doing a lot of yoga with Adrian, just taking breaks, and learning how to integrate work and life. But I think on the company side and team side, I actually have experienced more efficiency with our work, just because there's less kind of this like side like hallway conversations. People have just been a lot more efficient. I mean, I've been in the company for a while now, so I can't speak to anyone who's new, but I have definitely seen, yeah, we've adapted and to this crisis.
That's great. Well, on my side, I wasn't, and my team wasn't really affected by COVID, very thankfully, because 90% of my team already works remote across 3 continents. So we were used to that kind of remote culture already for my teammates. So that's not so much of an issue. But you know, one thing we should note about the role of a product manager and product management in general is that the product manager acts as the CEO of the product. And when you think of it, the CEO is not really the person who produces something. The CEO is the person who leads a team, right? And for that reason, you know, it's often easier to look at this as the easiest person to remove from the team is the product manager. The person the most at risk on a team is a product manager. But at the same time, without the right leader, the team cannot function either way. So I think this whole pandemic situation has really reinforced what kind of leader does a team need to lead a product team, right? So like Meghan, I think was mentioning earlier, you know, a good PM is someone who removes obstacles along the way, who looks at dependencies, who looks out for their people. Like Joyce is mentioning, you know, it's all about making sure people have enough focus time and are being mindful about what they're contributing to. So to me, this time of pandemic has really increased the focus I have on motivating the team and, you know, taking the team's temperature in terms of motivation and engagement, and making sure that everyone's fully on board with the problems we're trying to solve, the timelines that we have, and still, you know, produce some great quality work out of it.
Definitely. You know, just hearing from all of you about how, you know, this work from home and remote work situation has affected each of you individually, you know, it is really eye-opening to how industries in general are approaching this quote unquote new normal, and just hearing your perspectives is really great. Joyce, I want to ask you this first. You know, we talk a lot about product and product management and how it's such a crucial part of making sure something that's in the pipeline gets to the desired audience in the right way. But what is the one thing, if you had to pick one thing that excites you most about working in product or working as a product manager? What is the one thing that excites you most today?
I realized I was on mute. I love product management because I see it as a duty of a product manager to really solve this core customer need and actually be able to deliver a solution to be able to help someone, right? And I think this is the reason I even ended up in product management, because prior to taking on my first product manager role, I saw a lot of customer pain points. I was working very closely with our customers, and they had all these issues with our product, and I had to constantly work with the product managers at the time in order to bring those inputs. So I think what's most exciting is just, one, really knowing that you're in the driver's seat and you can solve someone's problem. And then I think the other aspect is having the ability to really innovate and be creative about the solutions that you deliver. So I think that's my number one.
I think for me, one of the most exciting things right now is how the conversation in the product management community, meaning the thought leaders and respected members, is talking a lot about collaboration and kind of the things that we were mentioning about helping our team achieve success and deliver results for our customers. It's becoming really important. So when I started in product management, there was a heavy emphasis on technological background and the ability to, in many cases, coming from an engineering background into product. That's just kind of the ranks that I came up through. I don't have a technical background, but I found a lot of success in the problem finding and solution shipping area. And I feel like the conversation is really coalescing a lot around that collaboration. So I'm excited because that'll bring more people from more backgrounds into product. Depending on what your product is, sometimes you need that technical skill. Sometimes you need, and I'm kind of assuming with Joyce, you need some fitness, or you need some biology background. It's just what you bring to the table can really enhance whatever it is you're doing. So it's opening up the profession to a lot of people.
Is it my turn? Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I really like what you just said here, Meghan, because you know, the one thing that really excites me about product management right now is that it's so much easier to get some feedback loop from the users. So I remember a time where, you know, to get data and analytics back from users, it took like a whole implementation that was custom, you know, from our engineers or from Google Analytics or what have you. And now, you know, not only, you know, if you have the right customer data platform implemented and instrumented, not only can you get data back in real time around every single data point that you want, but it's not just you who's getting that data back, it's also your customer service department. It's really across the full stack that you can get some really insightful insights. And based on that, it becomes, to your point, less of a technical background heavy implementation and day-to-day. But what's more important is in that KPI definition, and what really is your objective in shipping that particular product? What problem are you actually solving? And then based on the expertise that you bring in, whether it's biology or maybe law or any other field, as long as you have the vocabulary and you're fluent in the language of trying to formulate the right metrics and how to interpret the data that comes back to you, and then motivate the team to execute against solving for those problems, then you'll be successful as a product person. So that's what really gets me excited, the agnosticity of finding the right solutions for our users.
It definitely sounds like the fact that it's becoming more inclusive, that there are more opportunities for people to get involved in product management, the fact that you're able to touch different parts of an organization and also effectuate change for customers and end users. Sounds like those are the things that are really driving your work and your passion. And I really believe that just hearing that is inspirational to me and to a lot of the people we work with in our community, because we find that a lot of young people and people in general want to make a difference. They generally don't know how, but they're actively looking for ways to give back and to really help people through their work. So that's really great stuff. And we're going to do a boomerang back to Nicolas on this one, but from where you sit, Nicolas, what are the top 3 trends and opportunities that you see in product management now and over the next 5 years?
Yeah, it's always a very broad question, but it's a great one. That, as I mentioned, I think now it's easier than ever to collect data from users. So one trend there is around privacy. And I think kudos to Joyce and FitBit on the privacy pledge that you guys recently released. But it's really great to see when very big companies are committed to doing things in a privacy-oriented fashion. I think that's really kudos to the team there. So with more data comes more responsibility, and you have to collect and treat that data anonymously, especially when it has to do with personal health information and personally identifiable information. So that's one trend. Another one is for product managers in general. You're going to have more feedback loops. I was talking about it earlier with, not just for you as a product team, but also across the CRM stack, operations, retail, you name it, they're going to have access to, and logistics partners. Everyone's going to have access to more data, and you're going to have to instruct them as to how to best leverage it. But for me, another trend for more specifically to product managers is that, a few years back when I was at Weight Watchers, we used to build a lot of the tools we needed to do our job properly. So for example, if you needed an A/B testing framework sometimes, or a feature rollout mechanism, or a way to localize content, there weren't a lot of off-the-shelf software as a service, things that you could go and use. Even a good CRM that's off the shelf didn't really exist. Maybe some, but not something that could be really customized to our liking. And now with more platforms as a service like Twilio, more software as a service like a lot of the ones I could name, I feel like the job of a PM is sometimes a bit different, where you're not going to coordinate with your engineering team a lot of the execution on things that are not core to your user experience. Like instead of building a lot of internal tools that help you do actually your day-to-day job, you're going to learn how to use specific tools, and then from there build less internally and go faster when you want to ship things to people and to your users. So to me, that's a trend where the PM has to learn more tools so the team can be more efficient.
So one of the trends and opportunities that is exciting is again, at the beginning, I mentioned collaboration and connection is really important to me, is the niche groups for product management. And though it may not be super niche, but particularly even in the last year, I've seen a lot more product groups for women, which Joyce may be talking about later, but being able to see ways in which people can lift each other up and build connections and put their career forward in ways that make them inspired is exciting. If connections and relationships doesn't motivate you, there's other ways to do that too, like platforms like Product Hunt, where you can put out prototypes, you can try things, you can experiment with different product frameworks and philosophies and build something that's pretty lightweight, kind of to Nicolas's point. There's a lot of tools that you don't need to know how to code anything. Then you can put together a functioning prototype and test out the whole software development cycle for yourself, which is a great way to get into product. It's say you don't have an internship, it's a great way to get something on your resume to show a potential employer about what you did, what you learned, what you thought about. A lot of your thinking is a really important part of product management, how you think about things. So again, there's a lot more opportunities to get into product. And then lastly, just things like this. So when I entered product management, it was really early in the profession. There were very many certificate programs. There were certainly not really any collegiate programs, and we're starting to see more of that. So I think that's really exciting to be able to educate people who are interested in the field in a more traditional sense, because sometimes that works better for people. So there's a lot of cool things in the direction of product management and getting into the field.
Yeah, I'm just nodding my head the entire time because I completely agree with that. And I think product management in itself is really a mindset. And it's really about how you think and your decision models in that you make and develop to really build a successful product. So, and I think in the industry, people are starting to see that. And I think what's really exciting and is an opportunity moving forward is that while product management is a profession, it is also I see it as a discipline where you can learn the mindset of product management, and it's applicable in a variety of different roles. Like I recently wrote a Medium article on how to apply product management principles to your life, because I realized that everything we do in product management is just super valuable in setting goals, objectives, success metrics, planning roadmaps, or even prioritizing actions. These are just really valuable skill sets. So yeah, one of the things I'm really excited is I would love to see the day when everybody can understand a piece of this product management, these product management principles, because it's just really valuable. And I think your career and your life is a product in itself.
I love the fact that you were able to connect product management in your work to life principles, because that's so important, and thing that a lot of people just, it goes over their head because they try to keep work in one box, life and family in another box, and everything else in the third. And I agree with you that finding a way to connect these things and trying to derive lessons learned is so impactful and really helps enrich your life, and also allows you to give back in the way that you can be a better person, and that way you can help other people be better people as well. So that's amazing. And, you know, it really drives down the fact that it comes back, product management comes back to teamwork. And without team, there is no product in most cases. So Meghan, how do you, as a manager and as a leader, continuously motivate your team and to keep going and keep them accountable, especially when they're working on different projects?
Yeah, this is a great question and one of my favorite parts of product management. But I want to double back real quick to something that Joyce said, which was product management generally has taught me how to iterate and move things forward continuously, but in small pieces. So I think that's like one of the biggest life lessons that I've learned is how to just not wait till there's this big thing at the end, career, house, I don't know, think of a big life thing. But you can like slowly get there. So I thought that was a really great point. Motivating teams. This is one of my favorite things because I think that the best products are made by a team. But how do you get the entire team who's cross-functional? So they probably are motivated by different things just in terms of what they do. So to be, to oversimplify it, maybe you have an engineer who really likes just coding and being focused and getting in a flow state and doesn't really want to have a lot of meetings, doesn't really want to talk to people. Then you have a designer who thinks out loud and wants to meet and wants to have all these meetings. So you have different dynamics. What I found to keep all those different personalities and motivations centered is to really focus on the problem that you're solving, to know that your customers, so for us, they're small business owners. Ways I've done that is have anybody on the team sit in on an interview. So, and we'll make sure that we talk about, if you're familiar with the jobs to be done methodology, we'll talk a little bit about general things about how they structure their day, what do they interact with, so we can get to know our customers. I've found that once there is someone that our whole team can picture and can picture a particular problem, then there's motivation to come together and ship and to figure out how we can do it more quickly, more creatively, bring in someone's experience from their side hustle. So really continually finding ways to have that customer focus. I used to, and when I was full-time in an office, just really pay attention to people. So like bring in snacks, remember it's somebody's birthday, ask about someone's new cat. Like you just remember those things, and by building those connections, you feel more motivated to want to work together.
Yeah, I would definitely add to what Megan said earlier regarding aligning the team to kind of what the customer problem is. I think I realized that just as being a product manager on a day-to-day, working with really a large group of individuals from just across different teams, and everyone has their unique function and roles and responsibilities and perspectives. And product manager is essentially part of the manager's job is to kind of coalesce all of these different opinions, but also bring everyone together. So one thing that I use regularly is to align the discussion around our objective key results. So we set quarterly, they're called OKRs, objective key results. So oftentimes when the team has new ideas or have disagreement in ideas or conflicts in priorities, always come back to what's our number one objective, what are the key results we're laddering up to, and whether or not this is what we should be doing. So I think that's kind of the one side of the picture, and the other side is I use empathy a lot. Empathy is I did Strength Finder a couple years back. One of my companies made me do it. Was actually my number one strength, and it is a super powerful skill set to have as a product manager. Just because like we get into a lot of conversations and situations where it might trigger emotional response, or people have disagreements, and in those moments it's just really important to be centered, to be grounded, and really to hear the other person and understand what is it that they're really trying to get across, and make sure that they are heard and seen and understood and respected, because those are really powerful and important things to do. And I think being a product manager, 50% of the time is really being spent building and establishing and reinforcing that relationship. So empathy is really important.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So what can I add to what the both of you just said? I think as a team leader, it's always important to understand the motivation of the team and to keep the team motivated in a thoughtful way. So for example, especially now, for example, with this COVID situation, your team's priorities might be shifting all the time, right? And so your role is to be transparent with the team, avoid too much context switching within the same 2-week sprint, etc. So one thing you can do as a leader is to be transparent with the team and really try to get the whole team aligned with, you know, your kind of thinking and your notion of priorities. Another thing to keep a team motivated is to simply understand what motivates them, right? So for example, is there a side project that the team would like to be working on? Sometimes you can't really allow for that because you don't have the bandwidth, but at least understanding what the team is motivated about, maybe it can help you. Maybe it's not for this quarter, it may be for the next quarter, that you might allocate some time for the team to work on a new data model or a new API or a new product feature that they want to test out. You never know. Sometimes great ideas come from the team directly too. And then finally, you know, you should also try to understand if the team is having some difficulties with a portion of a project. For example, maybe there's too much tech debt on a particular implementation that the team has been working on for the past few months, and you keep asking them to iterate over it, but the code they wrote is horrendous, or, you know, they inherited from somebody else because they were in a rush or something. Maybe they want to refactor it. Well, you know, let the team also guide you in terms of what could be motivating them further so that they can work even extra, you know, as a team to deliver more, because what they're working on is basically something they're passionate about. And I think especially with this time of people working from home and all that, if they're not working on something they're passionate about, you're going to lose their attention and focus pretty rapidly. And I think we're all seeing this right now. So this is a time to really reflect on what motivates every individual and the team as a whole.
Really great words of wisdom. And I love how each of you approaches bringing people together, empowering them, and also listening to them. I think that that last part, listening, is so important, especially when you are trying to come up with a way to build something for other people. And in this day and age where nearly all of us are working apart, I think the ability to listen through different channels and being able to communicate what we believe and what we see is so powerful. So thank you so much for that. And, you know, as we think about teams, it ultimately ends up going back to how we perceive ourselves, and also what can we do in order to make ourselves better, in order to make our team better. So Joyce, you know, I know that you're actively involved in a lot of different organizations. You have your own, and try to help lift up people who are trying to get involved in product and product management. So what skills, resources, or self-education do you use to complement your work and to strengthen your perspective in product management?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I love the product management job or the career is that it is a constantly evolving role. In that, as a product manager, we need to constantly update, find areas to either expand our hard and soft skills, or just adapt and iterate, to what Meghan was saying earlier. So there's a lot of experimentation around the product management role in itself, in being and becoming a better product manager. So for me personally, I transitioned into consumer tech about 3 years ago, and soon after I actually got pretty burnt out in working in consumer tech. And at the time, I was also one of the few female product managers in my workspace. So one thing that really helped me was to reach out into the community. So I'm part of Women in Product. It's a there's like 10,000 folks on the Facebook group, and just they share a lot of super valuable resources. It is a really supportive network, and it's just a great way to. It was a great intro for me to see how product management is done elsewhere. What are some best practices, and also what are some similarities? Because sometimes we have this negativity bias, and we think that grass is greener on the other side, but there are a lot of similar struggles. And kind of from that, I just got more involved in the women in product community, and it's kind of one of the reasons that inspired me to really want to help more women transition into product. And then I think the second is just go to events. I think now now given that we're all in this virtual world, I imagine events are even more accessible. But back then in San Francisco, I would just go to a lot of talks, product talks, and learn a lot from leaders across different companies, product leaders across different companies. So, and then the third is just, I think there are tons of good resources on Medium and that people share. So I think those are my three.
So for me, I have very similar approach to Joyce. Getting involved with other product people, whether that be in a meetup, like finding ways to just connect with other people. You'll find that have similar issues when sometimes you feel alone. Product sometimes, depending on how your company is structured, can feel a little bit lonely. So finding other people who are having the same struggles and you can just talk with them is really awesome. I both love and hate frameworks because I feel like there are a million different frameworks, but that being said, look at different frameworks, read about them, try to use them, see what works. There's a lot of different things that you can learn from how other people think about solving product management. So becoming familiar with different frameworks is helpful, and just kind of continually learning. And then I will say also something that I've been really looking into recently is as I get more senior in my product management is networking with more senior level people, not just in product. So like I want to interact with senior engineers, designers, different disciplines, because then I can find out more, because my curiosity currently lies more in team dynamics and figuring out how to structure teams better. So it just kind of depends on what your interests are, but there's always a way, as long as you can talk to somebody, I highly recommend just connecting with others.
That's great. So I have different ways of answering this question. I think for anyone who is a product manager or who is aspiring to become a product manager, what you can try to look for to learn more is basically look at all the sub-disciplines of product management, like product design or software engineering or project management or whatever it is, and see what is or data science or all of these features and all these disciplines, and see what maybe you lack in terms of skill sets. So for example, like Meghan was saying, maybe you want to interact more with a senior engineer or a senior designer. That's great because maybe you can learn something from from their methodology and skill set. Another thing I constantly look for, talking about the trend I was mentioning earlier, is there's more and more tools out there that will make the burden of coding something for your own stack easier. So what I mean by that is maybe there are some things that you can take off the shelf and run with it, instead of having your own team build it. And being aware of all these evolutions in the software marketplace out there is really useful, because then you get to market faster. And so that's pretty critical to keep an eye on those things. The last thing I'll mention is, as a product leader and as a product manager, what you want to keep being aware of are the big trends occurring in your field. So for example, if your field is habit formation, then don't just look at what others are doing in your competition, but also look at psychology reports and research, right? And if your focus is sleep, maybe you're going to look at scientific literature on sleep and how you could adapt it to a consumer experience. If it's social media, maybe you're going to look at TikTok. Sure, you can have fun doing that, but more importantly, you're going to try to understand, how was TikTok built? You know, what were the underpinnings that made it successful? If you see a nice product out there, try to understand how, you know, it went from ideation to iteration to creation and to production. I think that's what will make you a better product manager overall, because you'll have the self-reflection as to how to get there faster the next time.
Definitely having that self-reflection and being able to understand for yourself what's going on in your field, having those different perspectives from other people who are working in product or whatever vertical you end up going in, understand and listening to what other people are seeing and being informed can definitely do wonders for you as you build and scale your career to wherever your end goal is. And doubling down on what you said, Nicolas, if we have a lot of students who we work with both in our community, we have quite a few who are joining us on the call today. So if you had advice for people who are just starting out, and whether they're a student, a recent grad, someone who's in the early stages of their product career, what can they do now to prepare themselves to get into product and to be successful in it?
Sure. Well, the first thing is to read a book called Measure What Matters, if you haven't already, by John Doerr. I see Joyce smiling. It's basically the book on OKRs. So it's a book I teach at Columbia. It's a really wonderful book, especially if you like tech stories and tech success stories. So that's the first step. But you know, another part of being successful in product, again, in my mind, is, well, what are you an expert at? Because if you're going to lead a team, you need to be an expert at something. You know, you could do it right out of school. There's no question about that. But still, you're going to have to be an expert at something. Is it data science? Is it product design? Is it software engineering? Is it, you know, business and analytics? It has to start with something and a passion of yours. So you combine that expertise with that passion of yours, and then you find an area or a product that you want to contribute to. I could tell you, for example, from my experience, I was a finance guy. I was working for Morgan Stanley for 4 years, and then I did the switch to product management. And when I went to my interview, people looked at my resume and said, well, you know, you have a great resume, that's fantastic, but you know, you have no product experience. Like, why do you want this job? And what I ended up telling them is, I had built a prototype, because I'm an engineer by background. I had built a prototype of a website that converted MyFitnessPal users to a Weight Watchers account and converted their calories into points. So what did that demonstrate to them? It demonstrated that I have some expertise, which was software engineering at the time. It demonstrated that I understood product, because I understood that from a business perspective, their top competitor was MyFitnessPal, and they needed to aggressively go against them. And I had an idea as to how to execute against that business strategy. So again, my advice to you is, find something that you're passionate enough about, that you can spend, you know, your whole days working on, so that you're not counting the hours. B, try to leverage something that you're the expert at already, or something that, you know, at least you're very comfortable doing. And then C, try to combine those things into a company that, you know, you want to make an impact at and contribute to.
I think one of the biggest things you can prepare yourself well for is communication. So learning how to tell a clear and concise story in different ways is a really good skill that you'll have for a long time, because often you'll be taking one core nugget of a story and repackaging that to many different audiences to get buy-in about solving a feature or solving a problem in a feature, or how you're going to communicate it to the market, or how you're going to get your team excited about it. So learning how to communicate clearly and also doing it in a transparent way. So being comfortable with thinking out loud, being comfortable with bringing others in will really serve you well.
Joyce, you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think to sum it up, I have this framework called the personal SWOT analysis. So SWOT is something that we use in market analysis in product or one of the tools. And so I like to think of kind of think about what are your strengths, right? Which is what Nicolas mentioned. And then also what are areas that you might not like that are considered your weaknesses. And then what are some opportunity areas, like areas that you're really passionate about, you're excited, and then what could be some potential threats that you need to kind of keep yourself up to date on. And then I think the second is just really start prototyping. Like I think the best ways, there are many different paths into product, and not all are equal. It really depends on kind of your skill sets and your interests. So I think some of the best PMs are just ones who have this bias towards action. So if this is an area that you're really interested in, find opportunities to take on a side project or build a prototype and start just applying. It's like learning a language. So think about how you can apply those skills into and turn that into a reality. And you'll learn along the way. It's not going to be perfect, but I think failure is progress. It's the most important thing. So just have to keep iterating.
I'm really happy you brought up the fact that failure is progress, because yes, it might not be the ideal result that you want, but there's always something you can learn from failing, and the lessons you learn from failing ultimately help you and help inform where you go in order to succeed. So really great points by all three of you, and thank you so much. We're going to go transition now to our audience Q&A. And first question we have is from Kush Singh, and he's asking, how important is it to have sound knowledge in coding in order to be in product management? So any of you can jump in, but do you have to know code in order to be in product management?
I'm happy to take that one. So it's a yes and no answer. It depends on the company. So for example, if you want to apply to Google, you can't go there if you don't have a CS degree or something related to that for product management. But I think what matters really is you need to be able to have a conversation with an engineer, right? So you don't need to be an engineer by background, but you need to understand their language. You need to speak engineer as much as you need to speak data analytics, as much as you need to speak product design. You need to be, I mean, if you're going to be leading a team, you need to be speaking the language of everyone. You need to be multilingual. Now, do you need to be coding? No, not really, but you also need to be able to challenge an engineer when they come up with a solution. Like, for example, and when I say challenge, I mean in a thoughtful way, right? So you're not going to tell them, no, don't do that. But, you know, if, for example, they have a question as to, let's go with path A or path B, well, you need to be able to call the shot sometimes, right? Or you need to enable them to call the shot. But that's your job as the CEO of the product, to help them guide towards the right decision sometimes. So no, you don't need to be coding, but it would help to know some concepts and frameworks about computer science and how a website is built, how a mobile app is built, so that you can at least speak the language of the people that you're working with.
Megan and Joyce, any of you want to add?
I definitely echo what Nicolas said. And I will say, for me, from personal experience, I don't come from a technical background, but just learning on the job about general, how is this thing built? And actually in my experience, forcing someone who's technical to explain it to me in a non-technical way makes us both think through the solution before a full implementation has been done. So it benefits both of us. And also, I have taken upon myself to learn the technical language so I can have an intelligent conversation. But I think it's served me well in my own experience.
Great. So, you know, I think, Megan, your perspective and your methodology really stuck to me, where you ask the engineer to explain it in, regular people terms, and then having both of you have that back and forth really would reinforce what the message is and to make sure everyone's on the same page. So that's really, really great. Christian Brooks, our next question, he's asking what advice you would give to someone interested in product management coming from a software engineering or more technical background. So how would you make that jump and that transition? Anyone want to chime in?
So I can tell you what I've observed. So what I've observed is asking a lot of questions about what does it mean to find a problem to solve? What does it mean to, like any profession, we can get stuck in our jargon a little bit, and just to be inquisitive, and then to offer suggestions. What have you observed? How might you solve a problem differently? Nicolas was talking about analytics and Joyce talking about OKRs. Like, if you're following these metrics, do you notice something different that maybe someone else hasn't noticed? Question those things. So the more you can have experience in thinking in a way that's solving problems and changing your mindset, that might be helpful for you.
Yeah, I can also speak to what I observed as well. I think if you are already in a software engineering role at a company, I think one of the best ways is just to work really closely, identify a product manager who you can work really closely with. So at FitBit, I've had software engineers who reach out to me and wanted to just work on a project that they can get some product management experience. And it was great for me, given that I had a lot of projects on my plate. And then it was also great for him that he could actually take on a project and really think through it end to end. And he definitely put in a lot of effort in terms of asking questions and really understanding and showing desire to learn about product management. So I think if you're already in a company and there's a PM you can build a rapport with, I would say that's kind of the best way to just learn the skill set on the job. Alternatively, if you don't have access to that, I would say, start with a side project, or even to what Nicolas was saying earlier, like start looking at companies that are with really successful products, right? And start to understand like what makes them successful. Some people do like a product tear down and they share it on social media, and just really start to get your thinking out. And I think those are great ways to start applying product management thinking, and getting feedback is really important. So like if you did look up some companies you're really excited about, if it's a smaller scale company, you can even reach out to some of their the folks who work there and say, hey, I just want to pick your brain. These are my thoughts. And those are great ways.
Great. And our final question is also from Kush Singh, and I'm going to direct this to you first, Nicolas, because you mentioned a few of these things earlier. Can we know some resources or books that you recommend that will help us to learn or get a better idea about product management?
I think I mentioned Measure What Matters. You can also try the Lean Startup. You can do The Hard Thing About Hard Things as well, by Ben Horowitz, which is really a great book. But I think like many professions, the art of product management is better done by doing and taught by doing, more so than reading about it in a book. So yes, you can learn a lot by reading a lot of resources around how different products were built, but I think the best way for you to learn product is, open Google Maps and try to figure out how people built Google Maps. Open LinkedIn and try to figure out how do you think they instrumented the feed. Open TikTok and try to figure out what's behind that algorithm. Like try to ask yourselves that question on something that's a passion of yours, whether it's habit formation, community, social media, you name it, right? Or sleep, whatever it is. But to me, that's probably gonna teach you more than a lot of the books you could read. But also do read books. I'm not saying don't read books.
So doing over reading, but reading is still important. Gotcha. All right. So, we've had the three of you share incredible insight and advice over the past 45, 50 minutes, and we can't thank you enough for that. But before we let you go, we'd love to give each of you the opportunity and put the spotlight back on you on something you want to share with our community here who is attending this event and who will see this session online in the next few days. Is there anything you want to share, a need or an ask or something that you're working with that you need help with? Feel free to just throw out anything that you need that our audience might be able to help you with. So Joyce, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I think it's really great that you put on an event like this. And yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm also the co-founder of She Aspired. So we're really organization to help women break into product. So yeah, definitely check it out if you're interested, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Meghan, anything that you want to share or promote?
Also, thanks for spending the last hour or so with us, and thanks for this opportunity, Brian. This was really fun. Really enjoyed talking shop. For me, I will also echo a little bit what Joyce said. Product Tank Philadelphia and Product Tank all over the world. We're doing more virtual meetups, so definitely take advantage of networking with other product-minded people. We'd love for you to join us. Also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I always love to talk about product, and happy to help.
Great. And Nicolas, anything you want to add?
Sure. I mean, we're not hiring at the moment, but if I can share a little bit of experience, when I graduated, it was 2009. It was probably the worst year to graduate because of the financial crisis back then. And now here we are again in 2020. If I can share one tidbit of experience there is don't give up as you're looking for a new job, or maybe if you're looking for relocating of a job or something like that, just don't give up. And, do believe in the power of social connection. Don't just apply to a job online. Try to find who the recruiting manager is. Try to connect with someone who's already in the company and ask questions to that person. I cannot tell you as someone who has hired more than 50 people in my career, the number of times a candidate came in the door and just reached out to me on LinkedIn saying, hey, I've seen this post at your company. I'm really interested. What can I do to actually maximize my chances of getting the job? And I can tell you that candidate already has a foot in the door. Maybe that's not the best candidate, but at least I understand this is a motivated candidate who wants to do something good. So find some companies that you want to have an impact at. Contact the people within the company, and then try and go and make a difference.
Definitely, I love that advice, and thank you, all three of you, so much again for taking the time. Before we conclude the session, I just want to bring up some of our upcoming events. So in June, we have an event every single Tuesday on a completely different topic. So I did a little screen share just for all of you who are tuning in that you can see. Most of our events are completely 100% free. All you have to do is register. So next Tuesday, we have Building Community in a Socially Distant World. Good friend Keith Corso, who is an entrepreneur out of Northeastern University. He is under the age of 21, but has raised more money than I have at the age of 30. So he's done a really wonderful job of building community in the VC world, on the startup world, and also locally trying to help his individual community. So that's next Tuesday. On the 9th, we're going to have another one of these conversations focusing on careers. So that's Future of Software Engineering we have Steve from Twilio, an experienced senior software engineering manager. And this morning, I just got word, we confirmed someone from Roku. So that's going to be really fun. So that's June 9th. June 16th, we are bringing together all the power players in the New York City tech and startup world to talk about what is going to go on post-COVID-19 in New York City in terms of tech and startups. So stay tuned to that if you're interested. And finally, a lot of people mentioned that they are interested in personal branding. We are hosting a series of workshops. I call it Skill Sprint. We do deep dive into different parts of personal branding, authenticity, focus, and storytelling. If that sounds like something you're interested in, starts on June 24th and goes every Wednesday to July 8th. So a couple events coming up. Even if you can't attend, love to have you guys share with your communities. That's all we got for this evening. We thank all of you so much for being here and for participating and learning. I hope that everyone is able to get something good out of this experience. Thank you so much again to our panelists, Joyce, Meghan, and Nicolas, for taking an hour or 15 minutes out of your very busy day to be here with us and to share your perspective. We really appreciate it. And thank all of you who attended this event live and who are attending and watching the event via video, which we're sending out on Friday. So thank you all again. Hope to see all of you at one of our future events, and take care. Thanks again.